20 hidden facts about John Wayne's 1960 epic The Alamo are waiting for you in this video, and most people have never heard any of them. This film nearly destroyed Wayne financially, sparked one of the most infamous Oscar scandals in Hollywood history, and left behind a replica fortress that still stands deteriorating in the Texas desert. 15 years of John Wayne's life went into making this movie happen. He mortgaged his houses, his cars, and his yacht to finance it, and the stress of production cost him £20. When it was all over, Wayne admitted that the picture lost so much money he couldn't buy a pack of chewing gum in Texas without a cosigner. Behind the cameras, stories unfolded that never made it into the entertainment magazines. A murder on set, a $25,000 check written on the spot for a broken Longhorn, a legendary director who showed up uninvited and tried to take over the entire production, an Oscar campaign so tasteless that it likely cost the film 6 of its 7 nominations. Those of you who grew up watching John Wayne westerns probably saw The Alamo in theaters back in 1960, or maybe you caught it on television when NBC finally bought the rights in 1971. Either way, you're about to learn things about this film that will change how you see it forever. The beginning is where we need to start, with a fact that most people don't realize. Fact number 1. Wayne worked on this film for 15 years before it ever started shooting. The assumption most people make is that John Wayne woke up one day in the late 1950s and decided to make a movie about the Alamo, but the truth runs much deeper than that. 1945 was the year Wayne first conceived this project, a full 15 years before the cameras ever rolled. Screenwriter James Edward Grant came on board that same year to start working on a script. This wasn't casual interest or a passing fancy. His daughter Iessa Wayne later called it my father's own form of combat. The late 1940s and early 50s brought constant fights with Republic Pictures over the budget, and the studio refused to give Wayne the resources he needed. That frustration drove him to leave Republic entirely. 1952 marked the formation of Batjack Productions, the company Wayne and Robert Fellows created specifically to gain the independence necessary for making this film. 4 more years passed before Wayne finally signed a distribution deal with United Artists in 1956. And even then construction on the set wouldn't begin until December of 1957. From conception to completion, 15 years of professional life dedicated to a single motion picture. Wayne later reflected that making The Alamo gave him the privilege of feeling useful in this world, and if there was anything better than that, he didn't know what it was. That 15-year journey came with compromises Wayne never wanted to make. Fact number 2. Wayne never wanted to star in the film. Almost everyone finds this surprising. John Wayne, the man forever associated with the role of Davy Crockett in this picture, never intended to appear on screen at all. The original plan called for Wayne to produce and direct The Alamo while playing only the small role of Sam Houston, keeping him behind the camera and letting other stars carry the picture. United Artists had different ideas when they agreed to provide $2.5 million for development. One critical condition came attached to that money. John Wayne had to star in the film. The studio knew Wayne's name on the marquee would sell tickets, and they weren't interested in financing a John Wayne production without John Wayne's face front and center. Reluctant agreement followed, and Wayne took on Davy Crockett, the largest role in the picture. This compromise bothered him throughout production because he wanted to focus entirely on directing, but splitting his attention between being in front of the camera and behind it became unavoidable. That compromise would come back to haunt him in unexpected ways. Fact number 3. Texas oil men forced the entire production to relocate. Mexico was John Wayne's original choice for shooting The Alamo because the costs would have been lower, the terrain was suitable, and the logistics seemed simpler. That plan died the moment Texas money entered the picture. Several sources provided the financing for The Alamo, with United Artists contributing $2.5 million, and Wayne personally investing $1.5 million. The bulk of the budget came from Texas oil men, including Clint W. Murchison and the McCullough brothers, somewhere around $5.5 million total. One non-negotiable demand came with that Texas money. The film about the Alamo had to be shot in Texas, not Mexico, not California. James T. Happy Shahan owned a 22,000-acre ranch near Brackettville, Texas, about 120 miles west of San Antonio, and that's where Wayne ended up working. Shahan had been actively courting filmmakers to help revitalize his town's economy ever since Fort Clark was deactivated in 1946. The Texas location ended up costing far more than Mexico would have, but without the oil men's money, there would have been no movie at all. Fact number 4. The set required over 1.25 million hand-formed adobe bricks. December of 1957 brought the start of construction on the Alamo Village set, and what John Wayne and Happy Shahan built wasn't a Hollywood facade, but an actual town. More than 50 Mexican artisans arrived to hand-form over 1.25 million adobe bricks using 300-year-old traditional techniques, every single brick shaped by hand, the same way bricks would have been shaped in 1836. 400 acres of land transformed into over 200,000 square feet of permanent buildings. Between 27 and 30 complete structures went up, including jails, saloons, a hotel, a church, stables, and a blacksmith shop. At the peak of construction, up to 400 workers occupied the site at the same time. What made this set different from anything Hollywood had built before came down to money problems. When Wayne ran out of funds partway through construction, Happy Shahan agreed to continue the work under one condition. Every building had to be constructed with 4 complete walls, floors, and roofs, no Hollywood false fronts allowed. Shahan wanted structures that could serve as a permanent tourist attraction after filming ended. 14 miles of tarred roads, a 4,000-foot airstrip, and 6 water wells providing 12,000 gallons daily all went into the property, along with miles of underground sewage, water, and electrical lines. This wasn't a movie set but full infrastructure. Historians Randy Roberts and James Olson later described it as the most authentic set in the history of the movies. Fact number 5. Clark Gable and Charlton Heston both turned down starring roles. Before John Wayne found himself forced to play Davy Crockett, he approached 2 of Hollywood's biggest stars for the role. Clark Gable received the offer first, and Gable declined, citing concerns about working with a first-time director. Wayne had never directed a feature film before, and Gable wasn't willing to take that risk. According to Gable's family, he later regretted that decision. Charlton Heston topped Wayne's list for Jim Bowie, which would have been a major coup since Heston was coming off Ben-Hur, and ranked among the biggest names in epic filmmaking. Heston also declined, citing concerns about Wayne as director. Another factor influenced Heston's decision. He held moderate Democratic views at the time, and feared the critical response to a film with Wayne's conservative political overtones. Heston later expressed regret about turning down the role. James Arness came under consideration for Sam Houston but lost the part to Richard Boone. Rock Hudson attracted interest for Travis. William Holden stood as the original choice for Sam Houston. Even Frank Sinatra expressed interest but had scheduling conflicts. Clark Gable almost playing Davy Crockett surprises most people who hear it, so if that caught you off guard, you're going to want to subscribe to this channel because we cover the hidden stories behind classic westerns that you won't find anywhere else. Fact number 6. Sammy Davis Jr. was rejected because of his personal life. One of the more troubling stories from the production involves Sammy Davis Jr., who actively lobbied John Wayne for a role in the film. The part of Jethro, Jim Bowie's slave, attracted Davis because he saw it as an opportunity to break away from his song and dance typecasting and prove himself as a dramatic actor. Davis went directly to Wayne and made his case. Wayne turned him down, but unlike the polite Hollywood rejections most actors receive, Wayne spoke directly about the reason. The Texas investors financing the film objected to Sammy Davis Jr.'s interracial relationship with actress Mae Britt. Davis later recalled the conversation, explaining that a lot of influential Texans investing in the film didn't like the idea that he was seeing Mae Britt. What Davis added was that Duke Wayne was upfront with him about it, and he respected him for it. Jester Hairston ended up playing Jethro instead, and Davis never got his chance to appear in the film. Fact number 7. John Ford showed up uninvited and tried to take over. John Ford had directed Wayne in some of his greatest films, including Stagecoach, The Searchers, and She Wore a Yellow Ribbon, and their professional relationship stretched back decades. Ford was John Wayne's longtime mentor. When Ford arrived on the set of The Alamo, nobody had invited him, and he didn't come to offer support. Control of the production became Ford's immediate goal. He started overruling Wayne in front of the cast and crew, barking criticisms like, "God damn it, Duke, that's no way to play it," and essentially threatening to take over the entire film. An impossible situation faced Wayne at that moment. He couldn't publicly humiliate his mentor, but allowing Ford to undermine his authority as director wasn't an option either. A diplomatic solution emerged. Second unit footage became Ford's assignment, keeping him busy and away from the main production without creating a public confrontation. The strategy worked because virtually none of Ford's footage ended up in the final film. Later claims that Ford served as an uncredited co-director don't match reality since his contribution to the finished picture turned out to be negligible. Wayne maintained control of his vision. Fact number 8. A woman was murdered on set during production. October 11, 1959 brought tragedy to the set of The Alamo while production ran at full speed. An extra named LaJeanne Etheridge, 29 years old, died at the hands of her boyfriend Chester Chet Harvey Smith, who was also working as an extra on the film. The murder occurred in Spofford, Texas, near the production location. Testimony at the inquest came from John Wayne, who complained about the imposition and noted that the production was costing $60,000 per day, time he couldn't afford to lose. Smith received a 30-year prison sentence for the killing. This dark footnote in Hollywood history rarely gets mentioned when people discuss the Alamo. A young woman lost her life during the making of this film, and her story has been largely forgotten. Fact number 9. Wayne wrote a $25,000 check for a broken longhorn. The stampede sequence brought disaster in the most Texas way possible. Rancher J.G. Jack Phillips had loaned his prize show steer to the production, and during the stampede, the steer tripped and snapped off one of its horns. Phillips confronted Wayne on set with a simple question about what good a longhorn steer was without its horns. Wayne's checkbook came out without hesitation, and a check for $25,000 went to Phillips on the spot. That's the equivalent of well over $200,000 in today's money. The story continued from there. The steer ended up butchered and barbecued, then fed to the cast and crew. Phillips had the broken-horned head mounted as a trophy and gave it to his daughter as what he called a gag wedding present, and that mounted head hung over her fireplace for 15 years. Fact number 10. Lawrence Harvey broke his foot and didn't say a word. Colonel William Barrett Travis came to life through Lawrence Harvey's performance in the Alamo. During one of the battle sequences, Harvey fired a cannon that recoiled unexpectedly, and the cannon rolled directly over his foot and fractured it. What Harvey did next earned him enormous respect from John Wayne. Silence followed the injury. No call for a medic. No request to stop filming. Harvey waited with his broken foot until Wayne called cut on the scene, and only then did he reveal that he was injured. Wayne praised Harvey's professionalism extensively because in an era when productions cost $60,000 per day and any delay could be catastrophic, Harvey's dedication to completing the shot before seeking medical attention demonstrated the kind of commitment Wayne respected most. Fact number 11. Wayne and Richard Widmark despised each other. The tension between John Wayne and Richard Widmark became legendary on set because these two men famously did not get along, and their conflict went beyond simple personality clashes. Widmark held liberal Democratic views and had opposed the Hollywood blacklist, while Wayne stood as an ardent conservative who had supported it. Political differences created an undercurrent of tension from day one. Widmark's complaints went beyond politics to focus on Wayne's lack of directing skills as his primary frustration. Ken Curtis, who played Captain Almiron Dickinson in the film, agreed with this assessment and noted that Wayne had no ability to motivate an actor for a scene. Production saw Widmark walk away from the set entirely at one point. He felt miscast as Jim Bowie, who was reportedly 6 feet 6 inches tall, while Widmark stood at only 5 feet 9 inches. Small manifestations of the tension appeared throughout filming. Widmark insisted on being called Richard, not Dick, and Wayne responded with barely concealed sarcasm, addressing him as, "Oh, Richard, are you ready?" before takes. Their mutual animosity becomes visible if you know to look for it, so watch their scenes together with fresh eyes. Fact number 12. The historical consultants quit and demanded their names be removed. Two respected Texas historians joined the Alamo as consultants when John Wayne hired J. Frank Dobie and Lon Tinkle, both experts on Texas history and the Battle of the Alamo specifically. Both men quit the production, and they demanded that their names be removed from the credits entirely. Historical inaccuracies in the film ran so deep that these scholars refused to have their reputations associated with the final product. Alamo historian Timothy Todish later delivered a devastating verdict, stating that there is not a single scene in the Alamo which corresponds to a historically verifiable incident. The major inaccuracies pile up quickly. The film shows the final battle taking place in broad daylight, but the real battle began before dawn, around 5 in the morning. That famous line in the sand scene never happened because no historical evidence supports that any such line was ever drawn. Jim Bowie appears fighting heroically in the battle, but reality tells a different story since Bowie was bedridden with illness throughout the entire siege and couldn't have participated in combat. Davy Crockett blowing up the powder magazine in a final act of defiance has no historical evidence supporting it. Many scholars now believe Crockett may have attempted to surrender and was executed. The most significant omission concerns slavery as a cause of the Texas Revolution, which appears nowhere in Wayne's patriotic vision. Mexico had abolished slavery, and many Texan settlers wanted to preserve it, but that inconvenient truth stayed out of the film. Fact number 13. The iconic Alamo facade didn't exist in 1836. An irony most viewers never realize concerns the famous bell-shaped facade of the Alamo Church, the image that symbolizes the battle. That distinctive shape wasn't added to the real building until 1850, 14 years after the battle took place. When the defenders of the Alamo made their stand in 1836, the church looked nothing like the iconic structure people recognize today. The upper windows visible on the movie set weren't installed until approximately 15 years after the battle. Another geographical problem exists because the movie set faces east while the real Alamo faces west. John Wayne built what historians called the most authentic set in the history of the movies, but it depicted a building that didn't exist during the actual battle. Fact number 14. Wayne lost 20 pounds and smoked almost non-stop. The physical and emotional toll of making the Alamo took 20 pounds off John Wayne's frame during production, all from sheer stress. Cigarettes became Wayne's constant companion when he wasn't in front of the camera, smoking almost non-stop throughout the shoot. The pressure of directing his first feature film while simultaneously starring in it, managing a budget that was spiraling out of control, dealing with difficult cast members, and knowing his entire financial future depended on the outcome, pushed him to his limits. His daughter Aisa Wayne later reflected on this period, calling the making of the Alamo her father's own form of combat. She described it as more than an obsession, calling it the most intensely personal project in his career. Wayne himself admitted that his soul was riding on the film's success, and given what happened at the box office, that statement takes on a tragic quality. Fact number 15. The 202-minute version is essentially lost. 202 minutes filled the screen when the Alamo premiered in 1960, the roadshow version that included an overture, an intermission, and exit music. That was John Wayne's complete vision for the film. General release brought cuts that reduced the film to 167 minutes, and the reason given defies belief. The studio wanted audiences to catch public transportation home, so 35 minutes of Wayne's epic disappeared to correspond with city bus schedules. The longer version was believed completely lost for decades until 1991, when a Canadian film enthusiast named Bob Bryden discovered the last surviving 70mm print in Toronto. MGM used this print to create VHS and Laserdisc transfers, but what happened next proved devastating. The print was taken apart and deteriorated in storage, effectively destroyed. 2014 brought an internet campaign urging the restoration of the original roadshow version, with support from major filmmakers including J.J. Abrams, Rian Johnson, Guillermo del Toro, Alfonso Cuarón, and Alejandro González Iñárritu. Despite this high-profile support, the original 202-minute version of the Alamo remains essentially lost. Anyone who has only seen the 167-minute cut has never experienced the film John Wayne actually made. Fact number 16. The Chill Wills Oscar scandal destroyed the film's chances. 7 Academy Award nominations came to the Alamo for the 33rd Oscars in April of 1961, but only one win followed for Best Sound. Many people blame the loss of the other 6 nominations on one of the most tasteless Oscar campaigns in Hollywood history. Chill Wills played the beekeeper in the film and earned a nomination for Best Supporting Actor. His press agent W.S. Bow Wow Wojciechowicz ran the campaign, and what followed became a disaster. Increasingly offensive ads appeared in the trade papers. One ad listed every single Academy member alphabetically with the message, "Win, lose or draw, you're still my cousins and I love you all." The worst ad came next, featuring the cast of the Alamo with text that read, "We of the Alamo cast are praying harder than the real Texans prayed for their lives in the Alamo for Chill Wills to win the Oscar." Variety refused to run that ad because the tastelessness exceeded their standards. Immediate and brutal backlash followed. Groucho Marx took out his own ad in response that read, "Dear Mr. Chill Wills, I am delighted to be your cousin, but I'm voting for Sal Mineo." Fury consumed John Wayne, who publicly condemned Wills by stating that no one in Batjack or in the Russell Birdwell office had been a party to his trade paper advertising. Wayne added that he refrained from using stronger language only because he was sure Wills's intentions were not as bad as his taste. Groucho Marx fired back at Wayne too, saying that for John Wayne to impugn Chill Wills's taste was tantamount to Jane Mansfield criticizing Sabrina for too much exposure. Peter Ustinov won the Oscar for Spartacus, and the scandal is widely blamed for the Alamo losing 6 of its 7 nominations. Fact number 17. Wayne's own Oscar campaign implied voting against the film was un-American. The Chill Wills disaster wasn't the only controversial Oscar campaign connected to the Alamo, because John Wayne's publicist Russell Birdwell ran his own aggressive campaign for Best Picture. $125,000 plus expenses went to Birdwell, reportedly the highest amount ever paid to a publicist at that time, and he was famous for his work on Gone with the Wind and knew how to generate attention. $152,000 bought a Life magazine ad with the headline, "There were no ghostwriters at the Alamo, only men." Spartacus and Exodus were the targets of that attack, both films written by Dalton Trumbo, a blacklisted writer. The implication was clear. Voting for those films meant supporting a man who had been accused of communist sympathies, while voting for the Alamo was the patriotic choice. The campaign generated so much attention that during a press conference with President-elect John F. Kennedy, a reporter waved the ad and asked if it was a veiled plug for Lyndon Johnson. Wayne's support for Nixon was no secret, and he made no secret of his hope that the film's patriotic message might help defeat Kennedy in the 1960 election. The film premiered during the birth of the Kennedy administration, and Wayne later admitted the timing was hardly propitious for his rallying call. Fact number 18. Wayne mortgaged everything he owned. The financial structure of the Alamo becomes staggering when you understand how much personal risk John Wayne assumed. $1.5 million came out of Wayne's own pocket, the equivalent of approximately $15 million today, but Wayne didn't have that kind of cash lying around. Second mortgages went on his houses, his automobiles became collateral, even his yacht was mortgaged. Wayne stated publicly, "I have everything I own in it." The film grossed only $7.9 million domestically against a $12 million budget, and Wayne lost his entire investment. Remortgaging and selling assets became necessary to cover his losses. Those of you enjoying these hidden facts about the Alamo should hit that subscribe button right now, because we're bringing you stories about the golden age of Hollywood westerns that deserve to be remembered. Financial devastation drove Wayne to take what actors call money dear boy roles just to recover. The Longest Day wasn't an artistic choice, but a desperate need for the paycheck. His famous quote about the experience says it all. "That picture lost so much money I can't buy a pack of chewing gum in Texas without a cosigner." Fact number 19. The film didn't break even for 11 years. October 24, 1960 brought the premiere of The Alamo at the Woodlawn Theater in San Antonio. But despite Wayne's hopes for a patriotic blockbuster, the film struggled at the box office. $7.9 million in domestic gross against a $12 million budget meant the film recovered only about 66% of its production costs in American theaters. European and Japanese audiences responded better, but not enough to offset the losses. Mexico banned the film entirely, cutting off another potential market. 11 years passed before the Alamo finally broke even, happening in 1971 when NBC purchased the television rights. Wayne had already been forced to sell his rights to United Artists by that point. 1967 saw Batjack sell all remaining ownership of the film to UA. The movie that consumed 15 years of Wayne's life and his entire personal fortune ended up belonging to someone else. Fact number 20. Alamo Village is still standing but deteriorating. December of 1959 brought the end of filming, and the Alamo Village set became a tourist attraction after that. Happy Shahan, who had insisted on permanent construction rather than Hollywood facades, operated it as a destination for Western fans for decades. The site featured a cantina and restaurant, a trading post, an Indian store, a jail, a blacksmith shop, and the John Wayne Western Museum. Live country music, Western melodramas, and staged gunfights entertained visitors. Horseback and stagecoach rides became available. Annual Labor Day horse races became a tradition. 1998 brought the American Cowboy Culture Award to Alamo Village, and 1995 saw Governor George W. Bush name Happy Shahan the father of the Texas movie industry. Over 100 productions used the site after the Alamo, including Bandolero. In 1968, John Ford's Two Rode Together, the Emmy-winning miniseries Lonesome Dove in 1989, and dozens of other films, television movies, and commercials. The 2000s changed everything. Happy Shahan died in 1996, and his wife Virginia put the property up for sale in 2004 for $3 million, but no buyers appeared. Virginia Shahan died on June 23, 2009, at age 93, and the village closed to the public on July 1. August of 2010 brought permanent closure to Alamo Village. Private ownership by Shahan family heirs continues today, with the property used for hunting and cattle grazing. Buildings are deteriorating without maintenance. No state or federal historic designation protects the site, and time and weather are slowly dismantling what was once called the largest movie set outside Hollywood. January of 2018 saw a final liquidation sale offering approximately 2,400 props to collectors, the first time the gates had opened in 8 years. $8 million would be needed to buy and restore the property, but no one has stepped forward with the money. The only full-scale replica of the 1836 Alamo Mission and Fortress in the world sits abandoned in the Texas desert. crumbling a little more each year. 20 hidden facts about John Wayne's The Alamo that most people have never heard. And now you know them all. 15 years of one man's life went into this film. His fortune, his peace of mind, and nearly his career all went with it. One of the most tasteless Oscar scandals in Hollywood history grew out of it. Historians say it contains not a single historically accurate scene. And yet, something that simply couldn't be made anymore exists when you watch The Alamo today. Over 1.25 million hand-formed adobe bricks, 7,000 extras in the battle scenes, 1,600 horses, a set so substantial that it stood for 50 years, and hosted over 100 other productions. Wayne put his soul into this picture, and he said so himself. Whatever you think of the politics, whatever you think of the historical liberties, whatever you think of Wayne's abilities as a director, you cannot deny the ambition and the commitment. Davy Crockett has a speech in the film where he talks about the word republic and how it makes him tight in the throat, the same tightness a man gets when his baby takes his first step, or his first baby shaves and makes his first sound as a man. That's how Wayne felt about this film, his baby, his first step as a director. Watching it fail at the box office, watching the Oscar campaign turn into a scandal, watching his fortune disappear must have been devastating. 1971 finally brought the break-even point. Wayne had to sell his ownership stake to survive. The set he built eventually closed and started falling apart. The thing is, we're still talking about the Alamo 65 years later. Hidden facts about its production keep surfacing. New generations keep discovering it. Happy Shahan earned the title Father of the Texas movie industry. His set hosted Lonesome Dove. Careers launched there. A piece of Western filmmaking history was preserved. John Wayne went on to win his Academy Award for True Grit in 1969 despite all the setbacks. Westerns kept coming from him until his death in 1979. The Duke never stopped being the Duke. Skyscrapers surround the real Alamo in San Antonio now, and only 3 original buildings remain. Wayne's replica on that Texas ranch, sitting abandoned and forgotten, looks more like the 1836 mission than the actual site does. Poetry lives in that irony. The fake Alamo became more authentic than the real one. The movie itself, full of historical inaccuracies, captured something true about American mythology and the men who believed in it. Thank you for spending this time with me if you've made it this far. These are the stories that deserve to be told, the hidden facts that add depth to the films we grew up loving. A favor to ask before you go. If you enjoyed learning about the Alamo, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment telling me your favorite John Wayne Western, and subscribe to the channel. A community of people who appreciate the golden age of Hollywood is what we're building here, and every subscription helps us continue bringing you content like this. More videos about the hidden stories behind classic Westerns are coming. The production disasters, the feuds, the triumphs, the forgotten details that make these films so much richer when you know them. Until next time, remember what Sam Houston says at the end of The Alamo, I hope they remember. I hope Texas remembers. Thanks for watching.